the first thing, I'd start up a call log, and I'd say, something like slow speeds, and I can start typing in the details of the call log here. So I could say, Dennis called in, said speeds are slow. One of the things we do with these call logs is I can dock it down at the bottom of the screen. And now as I'm navigating through the system, it's always available to me. I can open this back up and add more data into it. I can leave this page and go somewhere else and still have it. But it's just a way to make it really easy for your techs to be able to track those calls. A lot of systems, you got to open up a call log in another tab, or you type in it in Notepad to paste it in later. And, those are the kind of things we're trying to solve. So if you imagine I'm a frontline tech, right, I'm taking a slow speeds call, the first thing I probably want to do is take a look at the radio or the modem or whatever kind of equipment they have and see if there's any issue there. So if I jump over to the network tab, I can see here they have a PMP 450 radio, and I can see it's in good status, which means the network monitoring we're doing shows that it's online. So I know the device is online, but we can pull up some stats about it. And the first screen I have here is a latency graph, so not a lot of data in here for today, but what you would see in here is the colored line is the average latency, and then the color of the line is the amount of packet loss, and then the gray area is the jitter. So looking at just the few samples we have in here for today, this looks pretty good, and I could pull this back to a prior day as well, and we could look over a longer period of time, but this is about a 24 hours worth of data. So typically I'd be looking at this to see, are there any big latency spikes? Are there any big packet loss spikes? But again, we sort of tried to make it easy for those tier 1, tier 2 techs. Right? If you train them, if it's not green, we got a problem, or, if it's not pretty flat, we got a problem. And so I would look at this and say, okay, the green line's pretty flat. It looks like we have a couple of little spots of packet loss here I can zoom in on, but, nothing I'm going to be too concerned about. So we can jump in and start looking at the radio itself, and kind of the same deal here. All of these graphs that I'm showing you, these can all be customized. So these are some built-in ones that we have that we thought made sense. But if you feel like on this signal quality graph, the receive power line shouldn't be on the graph with these other elements, we can put it on its own graph. If you don't like the signal noise ratio being brown, you can make it pink. I mean, you can really customize these the way you want. But same deal here. I'm going to come in and look. All we have going on here looks like we have some inbound discards that are popping up, so we'll take a look at that in a minute. But I'd come and look at the signal levels and see the same thing, right, if they've been pretty flat over time. So it's the same kind of approach. We're looking for outlying data, right, something that's changed. And I would look at these signal levels, say, they haven't particularly changed. One of the other things we can do in the network monitoring as well is, rather than graphing things, we can track how often they've changed. So, for example, on Cambium gear, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, they have a color code on there that's kind of like the concept of an SSID. So I can look here and see right now it's color code 24. Has it ever been something else? And kind of the same deal with the frequency. So maybe I'd look at the frequency here, and if I see it's been flipping between two different frequencies, I can say, okay, is it hopping between two different access points? Is there something going on there that's causing a problem? And this is a pretty nice feature as well. I'll show you guys in a minute the monitoring on an access point. But if you're tracking the color code, for example, and somebody changes it, you've got a record in Sonar of what it used to be, when it was changed and all that kind of stuff. So, it's pretty neat. Last thing I'll jump into here on the radio, if we sort of accept that these signal levels look okay, we can pull up the actual interfaces, and I can see, in this particular case, this radio we're looking at, the interface is actually down, the Ethernet interface. So I would imagine this guy's got slow speeds because his interface is down. So again, pulling data in for people to be able to see and look at without having to log into all the equipment. But if we imagine it's up, I'd probably log in here and look at things like the bits per second on the interface, see if there's any flat lines there. Could look at things like the discards and the errors on the interface to see if there's anything there. And again, it's sort of a quick way to be able to drill through this data and really quickly look for any kind of outliers or issues that might be going on. So if we imagine we looked at these graphs and, and they looked okay, and I thought nothing there's really jumping out at me as an issue, the other thing I could look at is the customer's data usage. And so we can pull that up over time, be able to look, same deal, is he flatlining? Are there any big spikes? And so we can see over about a week period here we're looking at, looks pretty consistent in terms of usage. But I'd typically come in here and I'd look at the last day or two and say, has it started flatlining at some point? And again, I'm looking for did they buy new 4K TV? You know, they downloaded a big Windows update or something like that. And in this case, we're pulling this in from a Procera. This is the name of one of our test Proceras here, but this could be coming in from all kinds of different sources. And one of the things we'll show down here is if we're collecting data from multiple sources, we can break it down by each source individually. So if you imagine a geographically diverse network where you have 2 or 3 different upstreams and we're pulling data each one of those points, this will be separated by each point. So again, I can sort of look in here and see maybe it's flatlining at one particular upstream. And so maybe we have an issue up there to take a look at. But, you know, this graph looks pretty good. We're getting, you know, 4 meg spikes or so, but nothing too crazy. So what I would do at this point, if I jump back over here, is we could trace this up the network and see if there's anything going on deeper in the network. So maybe I'm starting to move into tier 2, tier 3 type support territory now, but say I'm a pretty smart dude, and I think I can figure out looking at the network to see what's going on. The first thing we show here is the device that this SM's connected to, and this is deduced automatically from the network. So we have a number of different approaches to pulling this data, but in the case of an AP, we typically go out and do an SNMP poll and get all the connected SMs on it, and then figure out which customer is connected to which access point. So in this case, we're connected to this AP that ends in 04. I can see the IP address of it. The AP is in a good status, so we know that's online. And this is the tower that it's connected to. So what I could do is I could just click on this tower, and it'll open up and replace the screen I'm on. But one of the neat little features we have in here is anywhere we have this icon with the sort of square inside a square, I can click on that, and it opens in an overlay. And so now I can close this overlay and be back to where I was without having to leave the page or open another tab or whatever. But it's a nice little thing as you're sort of drilling through here to be able to do that. So this is one of our new modules that we released, I don't know, a couple of months ago now. And so this is called Sonar Pulse. And what this does is it scans all the equipment of the network side and figures out what's connected to what port it's connected on, you know, the sort of hierarchy of all the equipment on the network side there. So I can see in the middle, I have the switches group, and I have my switch here. I have access points over on the right here. I have some backhauls up at the top. And you can see where these dashed lines are. This is showing me like this backhaul connects over to this other network site. This backhaul connects over to this other network site. And I actually have an access point here where there's an SM at another network site that's connected back, where it looks like we're using an SM as a backhaul. But, you know, I can come in here and look. This was the AP we were looking at. There's 22 people connected to it. I can click on that to see the list of people. But what I'm really going to do is drill into this AP itself and start taking a look at some data there. So we can look at the interfaces on the AP. We can look at some monitoring stats on the AP, kind of same deal. I can look at my packet loss and latency. I can look at SNMP stats. And so one of the kind of interesting things here to see is in this frame utilization graph. This is another one, you know, we put in here. You could change this, change the colors, or put different things on this graph if you wanted to. We've set some thresholds here where when the frame utilization goes above a certain level, it'll actually put this red background on here again, just sort of draw your attention. So you can see right now, our frame utilization is actually, uplink frame utilization is at 100% on this AP. So if I was a tech and I'm getting calls about slow speeds and I saw this, I would think, okay, I mean, there's definitely a network issue here, right? Or here's the root cause. Our frame utilization's at 100%, so the access point's overloaded. So, I mean, there's other stats we have here as well. Same deal I was telling you about before, like with the color code here, right, that we can track that over time. But now as this sort of tier 1 tech, I feel like I found the problem. I think it's a frame utilization problem. I need to escalate this. So I can come back in here and I can really easily tell anybody in the network, you know, it's AP4, it's connected to port 6 on the HP switch at this site. I can pull up the switch and look at it and pull stats from there. And so this is really the pulse piece I think we're pretty proud of, because this stops you needing to maintain any maps of your network sites. It stops you having to make sure you're keeping data updated about what port things are plugged into. Techs in the field, if they unplug an AP and go, oh, hell, you know, what port was that in? I mean, just pull up Sonar and take a look, and it's going to be in there automatically. So I think this is a pretty neat thing. But
yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. So now we know, you know, I think there's a problem with this AP. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to go back to my call log, and I'm going to say, you know, we determined frame utilization issue on AP4, right? So once I save this call log, now we have a record on this customer's account. They called in, they had slow speeds, and we found a problem. But now what I really need to do is start pushing this up the chain, right? So I can come in here to my communications tab and see this call log that I just saved. And what I'm going to do is create a ticket from this. So I now want to track this problem, right? This isn't solved. It's something that we need to deal with. And so I can make this an internal or a public ticket. A public ticket would mean I can communicate with the customer by email, that will send them an email when the ticket's opened, and then they can reply to that, and the replies will come back into Sonar. So I'm going to make this a public ticket, and I might say something in here like, text going to be dispatched to the site or whatever the case may be. I mean, this is pulled in the call log data that we had originally, but I can put more things in here. So then we can pick what email address we're going to send it from, so we can have different email addresses like support at towercoverage.com or billing at towercoverage.com or whatever, and then who's going to be responsible for it. So what we might do at this point is put this into a tier 3 or a network support group or something like that, or I might assign it to a specific guy. Sort of depends on what your internal policy is, but let's say we assigned it to whoever Dominic Langworth is. Maybe he's our network engineer, and we're going to send this over to the customer. So once I create this ticket, now we have a ticket in here that says the slow speeds. And if you imagine now I'm a network engineer and I'm sitting here maybe in a ticketing interface. This is our main ticketing interface. I got the ticket sitting right at the top here. So I may see this come up and know it's assigned to me, or I may see it in a group that I'm responsible for and deal with it. And the view that we have right now is just showing every single ticket, but I can open this up and change to things like tickets that are assigned to me or tickets that are in my groups. And the other kind of neat thing we have with the ticketing system is this concept of completely custom filtering. So a lot of the time, there's a hierarchy in big companies, right? So you have guys answering the phone, you have guys that stuff gets escalated to, and then there's supervisors they report to and managers above them. And all of those people want to look at this data in a different way. So like if I'm a supervisor and I have 10 people working for me, I might want to make a custom filter that shows me the tickets that all my employees are working on, so I can just come in here and sort of pick them. But if I'm one of the guys doing the work, I really don't care about seeing everybody else's tickets, right? So I can come in here and make the filters that work for me, and then I can save this filter down here as with some specific name so I can use it again. But anyway, if we jump back over here, take a look at this ticket, be looking at this and see the data that's been put in. And again, I have that sort of quick view here. I can pull up that customer account the ticket was opened on and go look at all this data for myself, because I don't know about you guys, but when I used to work as a network engineer, I'd take pretty much any info in a ticket with a grain of salt and want to go dig through all that myself to make sure it's right. But I think I would look at this data and say, yeah, I think this guy's right. There is a problem on that AP. So now as a network engineer, what I can do is I'm going to create a new ticket, but I'm going to make an internal ticket to track this issue. So I'm going to make a ticket and say, we have a frame utilization issue on AP4 on, whatever that network site was, Tower 1. Put some kind of info in here. Same deal, I'll assign this to myself. But now I can assign this to the network site. So I think the network site name was Debolt something. There it is. So now rather than creating a ticket for a customer, I'm creating a ticket for a tower. And here's the ticket I created. And what we can do with this now that I think is a really powerful feature is we have this concept of child tickets. So I could come down here, and if I go back and grab the ticket ID of that slow speed one we had, let's take a look at that. There was ID 3488. And now I come into this one, I can link that up. So I can come in here and say, we have one ticket that's come in about this issue, and I'm going to attach it to this ticket. And now as more customers are calling in and reporting this problem, I can tell my tier 1 techs, anybody that calls in and they're having slow speeds and they're connected to AP4, just open a ticket and associate it with this parent ticket. So now, as the network engineer, I can look at this and see, there's one person affected that's called in, or there's 10, or there's 100, or there's 1,000. And the techs are able to look at this and say to the customer, here's the current update. Yeah, it's an issue with tracking. I'm going to add you to the list. And here's what the current status is, because they can look at this ticket and see what's going on with that as well.
So
one of the things...
go ahead.
Dennis.
I actually have a question on that. So whenever you created this ticket, we didn't actually create it for that AP. We just said it was for a tower. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So, you'd probably put inside the body of the ticket, it's for the AP or whatever, but the tickets themselves always associate with some kind of geographical location, like a customer or the tower itself.
Gotcha.
And then you can put more detail into the ticket.
I was just curious now, if a new customer or another customer called you, and let's say they were off of that tower site, would it immediately pop up and say, hey, there is a current open ticket on this site?
No, it would be something that you'd have to look at. But that would be a pretty neat thing to do. I think you've given me a good idea for one of our next updates there, Dennis.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, that would be the ideal, is that if you just had it on a tower, that's fine. That's not a big deal. But as soon as you say, hey, I want to open a new ticket for this particular customer, and this particular customer is associated with that tower, there are maybe a little word that says there is a new master ticket, or there is a master ticket associated with this. To click here to view.
Yeah, I think that fits directly into the philosophy we have, right, of trying to put that data in people's faces. So I'll send me the address to send the check to, Dennis. I'll get that over to you. So yeah, I mean, that would be cool. I think that's something we will do and would be easy to do. But what I can do with this that I think is neat is inside this ticket, now I can do things and have it apply to all the child tickets, right? So let's imagine we think the issue's resolved. I can come into the public reply and say, I want to send an email to every child ticket associated with this. I want to send an email to all those customers, so I can now contact 1,000 people and say, hey, issue's resolved. If it doesn't work, reboot your router. If you're still having a problem, give us a call. Or I can go call them all, or I can do whatever I want, right? But at this, and I can also change all the status on them, so I can close out all those child tickets in one click. I mean, this is one of the things. I used to work in ticketing systems all the time. If I have to go in and close like 1,000 tickets by hand, I mean, kill me. I don't want to sit there clicking on a menu over and over. But at this point, what I'd be looking at is we need to solve this problem. So if we now move over to the guys out in the field, I'm the network engineer who gets to sit in my cushy office and tell people what to do. I got guys that go out in the field in St. Louis in 40-degree weather or whatever, climbing these towers to fix the stuff. So what we'd want to do is create a job that we can schedule for them. So I can bind a job to a ticket. So now we have like this whole hierarchy, right, of the customer tickets are assigned to the master ticket, and then we can have a job that's to go out and resolve the issue that's assigned to the ticket. So it's really easy to see the whole sequence of events. So let's just create a job quick. It's automatically populated that the job's going to be for this site. I'm going to say this is a tower climb. We need to replace the AP, or we need to upgrade it, or whatever, and use your imagination. And it's pulled in the info from the ticket here. So I'd say, this AP sucks. Put up a better one. And what I'm going to do is put this job into a queue. So I could just schedule it right now, but I'm going to put it in a queue because I want to jump over from the perspective of a dispatcher to show you what they would see and what they would look at. So I'm going to jump into the scheduling interface here. And you can see right at the top here, I have my tower climb job in a queue. So imagine I'm a dispatcher and I'm sitting here, and this is my dispatch interface. I've got all my text over on the left here. Here's all the jobs we have scheduled for today. We got the little vehicle coming out that shows the drive time to go from one job to another. So, I've got all this sort of information at my fingertips, and I can look down here and see where all my jobs are scheduled and who's doing them and all that kind of stuff. So let's imagine I'm always watching out for these tower climb jobs, and I have my filter on here to only show tower climbs. We have a couple scheduled here, but here's the one I just made. So I go, okay, anytime a tower climb gets scheduled, I know that's a priority. I got to deal with this. So I can then drag this job into the queue here to schedule it. And as I start to drag it, you can see a lot of the areas that we had that were white now disappear. And the reason for that is that inside Sonar, we're able to define which of our techs are authorized to do certain types of jobs, when do they do them, all that kind of thing. And so you can see I only have 4 techs here that are allowed to do tower climbs. And with the current schedule we have set up, they can only do them between 8 a.m. and whatever, probably 5 p.m. over at the end there. So if I take a look at this, I can see, looks like Sophia is one of our climbers. Let's give this to her. And when I drop this in here, what it's going to do is calculate what the drive time is from her starting location. So this would be wherever she starts work every day, over to the site. So it's 2 minutes. So my guess is this tower is right at our office, right? You can see for some of these other jobs, like it's almost an hour and a half drive for this install that's being done. What that lets me know I can do is to sort of push this all the way up to the start. I mean, we got plenty of time for her to get there if she starts work at 6 a.m. So if I save this, what happens then is all these changes get published out to everybody. One thing I didn't mention, actually, is all the interface I'm showing you, like everything's real time everywhere. Anything I'm doing, everybody else sees in real time. So creating the tickets is real time. Doing anything on a customer account is shown in real time. And so as I save this, any other dispatchers will now see this. And also, if she has Sonar up on her phone, which we have a whole mobile interface on here, she'd get a notification that that's happened. It can push into a Google Calendar. It can send her a text message. There's all different ways that the notification can go out. But now, Sophia's out in the field and she goes, oh, hell, I got to go climb this tower. I just got a text or popped up in my calendar about it. So she heads out there. She does the work. She can come in here and then complete the job. She can check in when she's on site. And if people check in when they're on site, then we'll track how long they've been there for. I can see now, like I just checked in. It's put my little user icon here in the job. So again, dispatcher can see, okay, the tech checked in at 10:39:06. And then when I'm done, I come in, I complete the job out. I say why I completed it, replace the junk AP. And I have the option here to also close the ticket because they're joined together. So if I'm the one who sort of opened the ticket and done the job and everything else, maybe I do that as a way to save myself some time. But I'm going to skip that for now. So we've closed the job, problem solved, jump back into the ticketing interface. Now I'm looking at this as the network engineer. I look and I see that job's been completed. I say, okay, problem's resolved. I can jump back into this network site, take a look at that access point, see that it's been replaced, look at the new statistics that are coming in. I see frame utilization's down to 50% or whatever the case is. So say, okay, great. I can send a reply to all the customers and say, issues resolved, enjoy your new faster speeds. I close all the tickets out and away I go. So it's just sort of a run through, right, of like a typical scenario. But hopefully you guys can see a lot of what we try to do in here is just make this really efficient for big companies. And I think those efficiencies trickle down to small guys. If you have one employee, this is still going to save you time. But we really always try to look at this from the perspective of if you've got like 100 guys working for you, how can we make this really easy? How can we save time? And, hopefully you saw a little bit of that from this demo.
Right.
What I see a lot of times in a lot of small WISPs is that we get WISPs that they are so used to doing things one way, and usually that way is very inefficient. It's, hey, we need to get this done. And that's all they say. They say they need to get it done, but they don't actually put a schedule down. They don't actually put a ticket in. They don't actually do anything that actually will remind them. And for my guys, I'll just give you my example is we have anywhere between 10 to probably 50 tickets open at one time. It is impossible for a single engineer to remember all of the details that all of the these tickets have. And the reason why we always have these tickets, why we create tickets, is so that we don't forget, so that we don't sit there and go, okay, hey, we need to go replace that AP. But then something else, maybe Tower A or Tower B goes down, so now that's more important. But Tower C, which you need to replace an access point, still needs to be done. So what I find with a lot of these small WISPs is the small WISP does not do their ticketing. They don't do that type of system because they feel it's inefficient, when in reality it actually helps them quite a bit.
Well, there's two sides to that, I think. Our approach in building Sonar has always been to make the path of least resistance the most profitable one, whether financially or, in terms of time efficiency. When I talk to a lot of small WISPs, and they actually, most of the time, are the most difficult to get into following a process because they are used to doing things their own way. But when you really dig into it, I think their own way has come about because they don't have much staff. And they need to do things quickly. They don't have time to screw around with this stuff. And I think in a lot of systems that they try to use, and a lot of our competitors as well, they have this issue in their systems. The path of least resistance is to not do it. It makes your life more difficult to do it. You should, but it just takes more time. And I think, our overriding philosophy on building this stuff is make it so it's easier. Like in this case, if you make that ticket and you attach all those customer tickets to it, it doesn't take much time. But now when you're done, you can click one button and email them all. You can click one button and close them all. What's the alternative? You got to sit there and call back 40 customers individually or send 40 emails individually. Path of least resistance is make the ticket. That saves you tons of time in having to do that down the road. If we don't offer that kind of stuff, what's the point, right? We'll just do more work so that maybe later on it brings you some value. And I think that's always the toss-up, right? And it really is like one of our company values is that as we're building this stuff in Sonar, path of least resistance, the path we want people to take, it needs to be the path of least resistance. It doesn't need to make their life more difficult. And so that's mostly about creating efficiencies. And it's all kind of boring, I guess, at the end of the day. But that's our approach to all this stuff. But thinking about it that way,
right? But that's the business approach that you have to take, and it has to scale.
Yeah. Well, exactly, right. And so I mean, we have people using Sonar that have got, tons of employees, tens or over 100 employees, and any inefficiencies you see like that, stuff the small WISPs don't want to do, the big guys don't want to do. And the reason they don't want to do it is because, they're tracking all kinds of metrics that they're accountable to. So if we put Sonar in and that call times go up by 3 minutes, we look like idiots, right? This, what the hell are we using this for? So I think by approaching it from that perspective of if we have an ISP with 200 employees, how can we bring that call times down by a minute or 2 minutes or 45 seconds or whatever? That brings value to the guy with 2 subs because it's those same efficiencies. They might bring different value, but they're both useful. And I think that's been our way of approaching that stuff always, is by building for the big guys. It works for the little guys because it's at the end of the day, it's the same kind of thing.
Yep. Totally understand.
I have a couple of questions. This is an all-encompassing product that you have here. How do you guys integrate with the different gateways out there? You guys with IP Pay and Authorize.net and everyone?
Yeah, we're tied into, a lot of them. A lot of the big ones like Stripe and Authorize, and some of the ones that are common in our industry like IP Pay, and there's some other international ones. We use like Moneris in Canada. I don't remember all the other ones, but pretty much tie into anything. In terms of payment processing, we push people towards the vendors that we like and that we trust, like IP Pay.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you want to run credit cards through Sonar, as long as they have a good API and they support tokenization and they're PCI compliant, that kind of stuff, we'll add them. That's really our approach to everything, honestly. It's not just payment processing. We integrate with almost anybody that our customers want us to. We're tied in with Procera. Well, Procera is the perfect example, I think. We're partnered with Procera. We sell Procera. It would be in my best interest financially to just support Procera and tell you to buy it. But we're tied in with Sandvine. We're tied in with Seisai. We're tied in with Perseem, because it's really about giving that flexibility to our customers to use what makes sense for them. Procera is not always what makes sense to them. And so that's really our general approach with integrations is we'll integrate with as many people as we can, and we keep doing that.
Could you show us what the customer portal would look like?
I don't have one up and running. I don't think that would be very useful to show. But one of the interesting things about our portal I will mention is it's actually not built into Sonar. So one of the things that we really focused on when we built Sonar was having a complete API for everything. So anything that you can do in Sonar, we have an API that exposes that functionality. And all the portal that we have is a web application we built to interface with our API. And we give away the source code for it, actually. It's up on GitHub. You can go download it and you can deploy it. Or you can modify it, or you can build your own. And so the customer portal we have, it works. It's got all the basic functionality you'd expect. But really our intent with it is it's a framework for you to be able to start building something bigger on it. You can embed it in your web page. You can do any kind of custom stuff in there you want. We've had people that have not even used ours at all, and just because of our API built one completely from scratch. But that's it's our approach to a lot of things, actually. We have tons of code that we give away on our GitHub repo, but the customer portal is like the central piece of that. I think it's same philosophy, right? It's difficult for me to tell you this is how you need to run your business. This is how your customer portal needs to look. So here's a framework for you to do what you want with. I think it's been pretty successful in that way.
And another question, say I'm an ISP of about 4,000 subscribers, and I'm looking into all the different billing applications out there. How much money would I be paying to Sonar to sign up with you to get that ball rolling?
4,000, you beat $1.25 a sub.
So you guys base it on a per sub basis?
Yeah, I think it's
Industry standard.
Well, it's shaken out to be industry standard because it just makes sense. We get not so much anymore, to be honest. I think most people have sort of accepted it's the best approach. But sometimes you get people saying, they want something they can just buy once. And, if you want something that scales and has all these features and is going to keep coming out with new features, you're not going to get something you pay for once. It's just not feasible. The market's not big enough. I mean, there's not enough ISPs in the world for me to build something like Sonar and sell it for unless it was $2 million or something a year. It's just really not feasible. And I think, Cameron can really speak to this, I think. I mean, it was part of the struggle for them is a sort of revenue generation to keep the company going, right? I mean, if you don't have money coming in, you can't hire the developers you need, you can't provide the support that people want, and you can't bring out new features. So if we weren't selling it as a monthly thing, when Pulse came out, that would have been a $50,000 add-on. You want a customer portal, that's a $20,000 add-on, and then people don't buy any of those add-ons, and they have a half-baked product. Doesn't have all the features in it, and our pitch, which I think is real. I mean, it's not just something we say, is if we can't make you that much more money, either in an ARPU increase or efficiency increases or not needing to hire as many people. I mean, real concrete ROI. If we can't show you real concrete ROI, you shouldn't use Sonar. And we've got, people a lot bigger than that using Sonar that'll speak to that. And that's really our approach with all of this stuff is, we'll show you. You give us $1.25, we'll give you $2. I mean, it's no brainer, yes. Right?
Brilliant. In my office, I have technicians that do everything. We do everything around here. Everyone does everything. Do you see in the industry with small ISPs where your technicians can and have the ability to take and process people's payments and the like? I mean, that's what I do in my business here. But do you see that a lot?
Yeah, fair amount. So it's a mix, right? I think there's a lot of people that try to collect the money up front. There's a lot of people that collect it out in the field. But it's common. Especially nowadays, right? Everyone expects to be able to hand over their credit card and get charged on the spot for whatever. So, yeah, for sure.
Well, Dennis, you got any questions? Any questions on the chat?
No, nothing on the chat. I'm going to double check it just in case. Give me a moment. But I think overall it's been a great show. Lots of great information. Simon, thank you very much for coming on and giving us all this information and telling us all about the Sonar product.
I got one more question. WISPMON, obviously, the clients with WISPMON obviously went to Sonar, and you probably maybe lost some. What's the transition? What's the pain point in going from a QuickBooks base to full-on Sonar? Typically, what do you see with a ISP of 500 clients?
Like in general, you mean, just as a
time frame to where they're completely comfortable and confident, and they don't bother you anymore.
Well,
with
never,
questions.
Never. But there's always so much stuff we're bringing out that we're always talking to our customers. But I think it's actually been one of the things we've really, really focused on. We have 12 employees right now. We're about to hire 2 more, and probably 70% of our employees do nothing but onboard and train new customers. It's the most critical piece, right? Nobody's willing to come on board and not get the help they need or have to do most of the migration by themselves. So, it's a process that we're optimizing all the time. But our internal target for everybody is a 60-day transition. And that's getting the data out, getting it formatted, getting it imported, getting it validated, training everybody. Some of them are quicker, some of them take longer. Mostly if they take longer, it's because the ISP is not ready, right? They want to take more time to train. But we, with bigger customers or even smaller ones, if they're willing to pay for it, we'll have people come out on site and train your staff and do all that kind of stuff too. Because it's really, the thing with any of these platforms, I think, is I'm showing you this demo today, and you're looking at it going, oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, that's cool. I could do that. If I just gave you the platform to log into with no data in it, you're going to click around the guide. I don't know. I mean, what the hell is this going to do for me? So
Right.
it's a huge thing for us in bringing people on board is not just moving the data. It's making sure they understand what are their business practices? How does that map to Sonar? And we have a lot of people. That's all they do. It's we have more guys doing that than we do developers, and I think it's what you have to have, right? It's you can't have a successful transition if you just throw somebody in the deep end and say, "Call me if you have any questions." Bye. Yeah.
Yeah, that works really well.
Yeah.
I understand.
So that's good to know. Roughly about 60 days transition. That's really pretty fair, especially if you're going from someone that's never done anything like this. And Dennis and I have always been touting, if you are running your business on QuickBooks, get a billing platform.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's amazing how many people still are. I mean, we migrated some guys, I don't know, 7 or 8 months ago now, probably, but they came to us and they had thousands and thousands of subs, I think like 5,000-6,000 subs. They were still doing all their billing through QuickBooks.
Oh my
And
God.
I thought that's probably the biggest one I've ever seen, but they're out there. I mean, it is a thing. So yeah, keep banging that drum and waving the flag. I'll send you some bumper stickers or something because I'm with you.
Actually,
And the doing it at $1.25 a sub for a large subscriber base, how do you dispel the myth that that's 4,000, that's quite a chunk of change that I wasn't previously paying. How do you get through those obstacles?
It's absolutely the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, I know it's the absolute wrong way to look at it, but
well, that's my answer most of the time. But it comes back
Okay.
to the ROI piece, right? So I mean,
Right.
anybody we talk to, and I mean, we do have. If you look on our website, we have a pricing calculator, and there's some scaling that goes on the bigger you get. So it sort of changes a bit. But imagine you had 4,000 subs and you said that to me. I mean, I would say, let me show you how you're going to write me a check for $5,000 every month, and I'm going to write you a check for $7,000 every month. Would you be okay with that? Well, yeah, everyone's okay with that, right? So all we have to do is figure out where that comes from. And I think in almost every case, we've sat down with these ISPs. It's been easy because there's so much inefficiency. Or, I mean, we migrated a guy who was not billing $60,000 worth of revenue every month because he had customers he wasn't charging for service. I mean, if you pay me $4,000 and I give you $60,000, I mean that
Yeah.
sounds pretty good, right? So I mean, and it all keeps coming together. And we spent some time with another customer I recall up in Canada, who same thing. I mean, they were very cost conscious, and we figured, I mean, really doing some real diving, that we'd save them about 60 hours a week. So I mean, if you think whatever you're paying those guys, I mean, add that up, right? Now you don't have to hire somebody else, so you can put them on other tasks. But you have to be able to show that. I mean, that's on us, right? I mean,
Right.
if I'm selling you something, I need to be able to show that to you. But that's our approach. And honestly, if we can't show it, don't buy it. I'm not trying to, make you pay for something that doesn't bring you any value. So
Yeah, we've had a customer, and I'll always this is probably one of my favorite little stories I like to tell. We've had a customer that they went to a billing platform, and you weren't around then, but this is I don't even know where they're at anymore, but they basically went to a new billing system. They were doing a QuickBooks-like system. They went to this new billing system, and one of the things that they had 12 people on phone calls. They had 12 people that from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. would answer phone calls. That's a lot of hours for a WISP that had about 3,000, 4,000 subs. And after we converted them to the billing system, everything was working fine. We actually had an issue because we actually had to create a unknown account, because if they typed in the customer's name and they couldn't find them, for the first 3 months after they got them converted, they still helped them. And then after that, we basically said, no, you must have an account with the, that we can associate with to be able to help them. Because these customers are calling and going, hey, I need help with my Xbox One. Or, hey, I need help with my new TV or my 4K DVD player or some crap like that. And what they ended up finding was almost 60% of their calls were from customers who were no longer customers. They literally had left them, went to the local cable company or the telco, but they were still calling them because guess what? They were getting free support from them.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. You have to be able to have all the metrics in place to be able to sit there and say, I'm sorry, you're no longer a customer. I can't help you. And say that with some type of confidence, because they had no idea what that type of system was originally. So that's just one way. I mean, basically 60%. They had 12 people, so that's, 6, 7 people that they could basically get rid of or, transition to another portion of their business and save that money. And that was worth their weight in gold right there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there's things like that you see that are so obvious that they jump out at you and you can tell, here's an obvious way to send money. But there's a lot of more sort of insidious stuff as well, I think, that you don't realize. So think about the demo I did where it was easy to escalate all that stuff, but it was easy to collect the data. And I've worked at companies where both of those things are hard to do. And what mostly ends up happening is as people get busier and busier, they care less and less about who they're escalating to, right? I got so many calls coming in. They're all coming in on this AP. I'm just going to send it to the network guy to look at. And he's so busy, he goes, well, I'm just, there's got to be a problem. I send the guy in the field to go look. And it's a misconfig or something stupid, right? But everyone's so busy, they're pushing. And you do that for too long, all your good people start quitting. And all you're left with are the guys that you can maintain that are willing to work in that kind of environment. And it's hard to see that kind of stuff sometimes, but I think often I talk to these bigger guys that come to us that don't have systems, and they'll tell that story. Their growth is stalled, morale is low. It's not just about making money and efficiency. It's about attracting and keeping good people. And nobody wants to work in a place where you're swivel chairing everything and nothing makes any sense and data's wrong all over the place and nobody's helping each other. And I think most of that it's not based on human nature. You got to give people the right tools to be able to do their job, and it's going to pay off. I mean, I look at Sonar, as good as I think the software is, the power of our company is the people. I got to have good people. And so does an ISP more than anybody, right? I mean, in that example where you're taking all these calls every day, you empower people. I mean, if they're really customers, but you empower people to really help them. They're going to feel good about what they're doing. The customers are happy. I mean, there's a lot of sort of intangible benefits, I think, to having a good system. And it's hard to show that in the demo, but that's a lot of what we do going out and visiting with customers too, is to sit with them and say, let's show you how you can make your life more pleasant, right. not just make more money. And I think it's a common theme.
Well, there we go.
Well, I want to thank Simon Westlake and Cameron Crum talking about the merger of the two companies to provide a more powerful sonar. Guys, appreciate it. And like we said, last time we interviewed you, you were just coming up with the concept, and I was really glad that you showed us a little bit in depth of what you've developed. It looks really cool, and I hope that some of the ISPs out there will seriously take a look at a billing system such as Sonar, because it'll keep you from bleeding cash, folks. I can attest.
Yeah, well, thank you. And hopefully we'll be on the show again in a year, and I'll be able to show you guys even cooler stuff than we already have. We'll keep the spot.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you on.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, Dennis, wrap us up.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.